While I take the front end off this Jeep and the whole powertrain out, let's go over the plans and the parts that I'm going to use in this build. A couple of years ago, I had a cow run out in front of me on the highway in one of my work trucks, and it totaled the truck. It was a complete mess. So I kept that truck as a parts truck to build this Jeep from. So the front axle that I have is coming from a 1976 K20 truck. I'm going to run RCV shafts, reed knuckles. So I just wanted to be upfront with everybody. I'm trying to build this Jeep to be as badass as I can, but on as tight of a budget as I can. You know, I still got a family to feed. And I'm not getting any free parts or any sponsorship or anything. This is just me showing you my build. So my plan right here is to pull both of the axles out, the engine, the transmission, and the transfer case. That way I can get it stripped down to just a bare frame. So I can cut all the brackets and everything that I don't need off. Like I mentioned earlier, this is a 1963. 63 was the last year that Willys Overland produced it. So I didn't talk about it earlier, but this is a numbers matching tub, title, and frame. I paid $1,750 for this Jeep. So if this Jeep was 1 year newer, it would be made by AMC and the VIN number would be up here on the frame. But since this is a Willys, it's way back here. Don't get discouraged about this skinny little frame. It's going to become a badass. Let me just get to work on it. So this is an old Buick 305, made it up to a turbo 350. It's not going to make any power and it's not going to hold any power. So it's got to go. Got to make room for that 6-liter LS. Now that this motor's gone, I've got to check the rear end out, and then I can start taking measurements for the new parts. All right, so my first step to this build is going to be to get the whole Jeep up at what I believe is going to be ride height, so I can start doing calculations and measurements. So this is an iron block LQ4. I want to get this in the frame as low as I possibly can and still maintain about a 19 or a 20-inch height off the ground belly pan. So I'm going to be running a 39-inch BFG red label crawler, and it was really obvious that I was going to have to do a pretty serious comp cut for these quarter panels. So I bet you've heard people make the excuse 1,000 times, there's no such thing as a perfect wheelbase. That's probably because they've never been in a 112-inch wheelbase. All right, all joking aside, I'm not going to spend too much time on the suspension design in this video because I already did the part 3 to the whole build series, covers all of the suspension. I'm not going to rehash all that. So if you guys want to go back and watch episode 3 of the Ultimate Willys build, that's all about suspension. Couple of nice pieces of 3/16 C channel right there. So here's the second section of frame. I'm getting ready to cut this body mount off. I had to grind these rivets and knock these rivets out. So this section of frame, the reason I'm adding a section of frame right under the belly of the Jeep is that way I can keep the original frame channeled in behind here. And then I can have all of my link mounts mount to the bottom of the existing frame into the side of this one, down below the frame rails, the existing frame rails, but then they're tucked up high enough so that the link mounts go in behind here, and then they bolt through into the brackets of this frame rail welded to the original frame rail. And then I can create a path, from the link mount up to the frame, where this is all going to be flat belly with plate steel, so that I don't have any of the link mounts hanging down, especially in the rear. You don't want to be sliding on a boulder and all of a sudden hit that link mount that's hanging down below your frame. You want to be able to have a nice path to slide off of something. That's why you run heavy wall lower link. That way you can use your links if you have to slide over stuff if shit gets real. We're sistering it up against the original frame. That's why I got this notch on the passenger side, because this spot right here is where the VIN number of the original numbers matching frame, the VIN is stamped in right here. And I need to keep this original frame section so that, it's a numbers matching vehicle, and I can keep it titled and registered and stuff. Damn frame rails, they're so close, like 30 inches apart. I don't want to say what are they? Not even 30, 29 3/8. And that's wild, so skinny. It's on the exhaust. I was thinking I was gonna keep it in the frame rails, but the 29-inch frame rail, I'm gonna have to cut and do some pie cuts, bring that out on the exhaust on the outside of the frame rails. This is gonna get all triangulated and braced in real good. All right guys, so here's how I'm gusseting out the boat sides. So with this narrow 29-inch wide frame, we needed to extend the frame rails so I can get some rock sliders built in here and get the roll cage tie-in spots. That way I can have my seat firmly mounted to the frame, the chassis. I can have the roll bar drop down into really strong sections of tube work. When you have a node like this is what's called a node. When you have multiple pipes coming into one location, that becomes extremely strong right there. So this is where the A pillar is going to drop down for the cage. I mean, you can see how weak it looks, just hanging out in space over here. Just nothing. I really like this ram board. It's a good product to use for templates. Beautiful. There it is. Just turn that into some 3/16 steel. Beautiful. Right there. That'll work. All right, guys. So you can clearly see that my mounting plates that the roll cage attaches down into the frame, it transfers down into the frame. You can see that they've got a pretty good standoff riser tube. This is all 188 wall DOM, so it's really strong, but you have to also incorporate gussets. Anytime you have a tube that just welds straight into a plate, you really need to gusset the tube to the plate. That way it can't shear off. If you're just relying on a welded bead and a major side impact, it could actually just shear that tube right off. It'll actually crack the whole tube right above the weld and just shear right off. So you want to brace the side of the tube to give it some strength anytime you just have a joint that goes right down into a plate. So the reason I bring that up is because these frame tie-ins, or the box, I'm going to box this frame in back here, or all the way down, but I'm going to incorporate this plate into this tube and underneath, so we can get a bead underneath this tie-in plate. And then we're also going to do the same thing running down the length of the back. That way we have shear side to side and front to back. So we got these mounting plates will have shear value in both directions. So what I need to do now is I need to template this whole back half so that it incorporates into here. So this one's going to be a little bit more challenging. All right, guys, there it is. You can see the templates turn into steel. So this is a 3/16 steel I had from an old broken piece of farm equipment. So we went out and cut these out, and they fit perfectly. So let's jump over here and see how they fit in the Jeep. Beautiful. Wow, that looks good. Let's go hit the edge, get all this down to bare metal at all the weld seams, and go cut this big one. A little bit tall. All right, guys, there it is. So you can see I've got this all boxed out.